There's a very good chance that we will not have preseason games for high school soccer, and it's all of our fault. Let me explain. The refs that are associated with Southern California soccer are about to go on strike. They are wanting more money, and in my opinion, I think they deserve it. Let's rewind to a couple years ago, post-COVID. There was a ref shortage. In fact, it was very hard to get referees out to any match. My entire time at Golden Valley, I've always been told, oh, there's a ref shortage, there's some games might get canceled. And every year, I've always taken it with a grain of salt. I've always said, okay, I've never had a problem at the high school level. I've never experienced, only having two refs for a varsity game. For the most part, I've had quality refs up there for the important games. But this year, it seems different. It seems that the refs are actually not going to show up for their preseason matches and that they are going to demand more money. From my understanding, CIF is not going to give it to them this year. I think from what I'm being told from hearsay is that CIF wants to negotiate for next year. And their side of the argument, according to what I just overhear, is that the rule book for this year has already been written, and part of that rule book is the fee structure, and they cannot go in and change it. That's their side. The Refs Association are saying they can go and change it, and SoCal puts a very strong, very, very, very strong zero policy stance towards referee abuse. Right now, it is a 6-game ban if you get sent off for abuse towards a ref, whether that's physical or verbal assault, and that goes for all players, coaches, and spectators. SoCal has punished teams for their conduct on sideline and made them forfeited matches because of abuse towards referees. And my experience so far with referees this year has been somewhat of a good one, and I understand what some people are saying. Some refs are not the greatest refs, but we're also not at the top level. We are at a youth sports level. I coach Flight 1 and NPL. I am getting Flight 1 and NPL referees. Now, I will say that sometimes we show up and I can tell that being a referee is the furthest thing from our ref's mind. Like, I get people that looks like they just pulled off the street and said, hey, you want to make $45 for this game? Just come and put this flag in the air. That's the way I feel some of the refs are. A lot of the centers that I've had this year are actually pretty good centers. The only problem I have is the inconsistencies that a ref offers. The waves are like this, and I deal with it. But when a ref's inconsistencies calls kind of get more like this, meaning they allow one thing, but then they don't allow another thing. That's when I start to kind of banter with the ref, and that's when a coach, a good coach, needs to assert himself and make sure that the coach is still in control of his team while being heard by his players to the ref. Now, my club's experience so far this year has been kind of a bad one. At the very beginning of the year, we were having one center referee show up for NPL games. One of our very first home, we had a referee, and he was a nice guy, and he wasn't a terrible ref, but he was by himself, and he was scheduled to do 2 games back to back, and he couldn't even make it through the second game. Poor guy, he does my NPL match, and I didn't think he was the greatest ref. I think he still needed a lot of work. Physically, he wasn't fit enough to kind of fulfill the job. Being a ref, you sometimes run more than some of the players. That's just the case. Not to mention that some of these refs are doing 8 games in a weekend, which is insane. The physical workload that these referees are putting on because the amount of games that there are is insane. But we had some experience with my club this year, and where one referee showed up. So the first referee showed up and he did it. And then the next week we got another one referee, and that's when I became frustrated. And that's when I said, okay, the association that takes care of our games needs to send 3 refs. You're asking teams to perform at a very high level. They're going very fast and they're getting very emotional. And the referee's job is to control that. And only to have one referee when you should have three is almost a cheap shot, and it kind of takes away from the game. And one of our teams in my club, they got very, very emotionally involved because of the lack of calls from the ref, because there should have been 3 refs. And I agreed with them. This is what I do not agree with, and this is exactly why referees are asking for more money, is because the relentless, and I mean relentless, verbal talk coming from the sidelines directed towards them, it is not acceptable in any way. Spectators need to just spectate. They need to cheer on their teams. They need to cheer on their boys. They do not need to insert themselves towards the referee. I'm sorry, but you just cannot do this. I stand very strong on this. I had to essentially, at that game, yell louder than my spectators were to calm them down, and then assure them that I am also frustrated. But being frustrated in the moment helps nobody. In fact, it only winds your team up more. I spoke with the team a couple days later, and most of them said that the parents got out of line. That because they become emotional, then it kind of turns into an emotional fest on the field, and that's not what the boys want. The boys just want to play, or girls. I just coach boys. I understand the frustration in when some of these refs are just incompetent or they're calling a bad game, but that gives you no excuse to verbally abuse a ref, to threaten a ref, to racially call out a referee is mind-boggling to me. This is still a person. This person still goes home. And why would you say that to a person? The conversations I have with refs are very structured around the game of soccer. I never attack somebody personally. I just don't. The few times that I've gotten out of line have been from my own frustrations, and I've really tried to reel it in as a coach to not let those happen. So with this potential strike about to happen, what I'm going to suggest all of us do for the next 3-4 weeks of club soccer, however long you have left, is to just maybe be more appreciative towards the referees that you have. Let's thank them after a game. We can criticize them in a very business way. Hey, I think you can work on this, but don't go after a referee as a person. You are low for doing that. So I think if we could kind of turn that rhetoric around and get these, because at the end of the day, the refs want more money because of the abuse that they take, right? And their job is hard. I'm not saying that a ref's job is easy. A good ref puts in a lot of work. I know some good refs, and they put in a lot of work. So I'm for all the referees asking for more money. I think they deserve it. How much money, I really don't know. My only question is, okay, I'm willing to kind of say whatever my program needs to do, whatever my club needs to do to pay for more refs, I'm willing to do that. But what I'm going to ask is, what are we getting out of this? What assurances are we as a buyer for referees going to get that we're getting the top quality referees, and referees that are continually working on their game, continually staying up to date on the rules, continually learning and growing within each other? What assurance can you give me if we give the referees more? That's my rant for referees, guys. Just please start treating each other nicely, especially the refs. I'm looking forward to a very good high school season. Please be kind to each other, and I'll see you guys next time.